Artificial intelligence is the new trending topic, isn't it? Well, back in 2017, when I started working for a multinational telco company that wanted to develop a virtual assistant, this subject was not as hot as it is now. And don't get me wrong, people were talking about virtual assistants, Siri, Alexa, Cortana, Google Assistant, and they were even using it, but not as now. We actually run a study in 7 countries, and from the total sample, only a bit more than a quarter were using them. And what was more surprising was that they were using it for only 1, 2, 3 tasks at the most, and very simple tasks like putting a timer or setting an alarm, maybe asking for the weather. And we've had a lot of development in AI since then. And in this timeline, it could seem like short time, but in AI terms, it's like light years. And now we can see that not only the amount of users of virtual assistant has grown exponentially throughout the years, but new tools of AI have emerged, like ChatGPT or Gemini that everyone has heard of. And actually, we can see them reporting impressive numbers of active users, weekly visitors. And not only that, but we can see that the purposes go way beyond that simple task of putting an alarm clock. We see them using it for productivity, research, even for creativity. This is impressive. I want to repeat a little bit the survey that I did 7 years ago with the audience. Raise your hand who has ever used an AI virtual assistant. A little bit more than the 28% that we saw before. And who among you have used it for your daily work? Interesting. Well, actually, ChatGPT is reporting that more than 46% of the companies are incorporating ChatGPT into their day-to-day. And 92% of the Fortune 500 have them in their company, either internally using them or using it to communicate with their clients. And this growth in usage is also due to the fact that performance has been improving. But a recent Medium article reported that there's been a shift in AI development. Actually, while companies are improving the performance, the speed, the power, the models of training of these AIs, well, each time those models are becoming more equal. We've come to a plateau, and they're all the same. So for the user, they're all the same technically. So this raises the question, what is going to differentiate one AI tool from the other? Why is one user going to prefer to use one chatbot over the other? Well, it's very simple, user experience. At the end, the user is focused on how to have a very meaningful experience with this type of tools. They don't care anymore about the technical gains or how technically good one model is versus the other. They really want to enhance their human capabilities with this type of tools. So this is why it's crucial today to do UX testing for AI chatbots. However, it's not that easy. My name is Sarita Safon. I am a UX researcher, and I could say that I've been fortunate to live in what I call the before and after of AI chatbot testing. And today I want to share with you the challenges that AI chatbot testing brings compared to testing traditional UIs, and how UX research platforms can help you simplify those ordeals. Let's start with the challenges. So we have the UX Live website, and if we want to test it, it allows us for very predictable paths. If I ask a user how would they contact the conference, they can go to the top button to contact, or they can scroll down to the contact form, even go to the footer to the links that they have to the different social medias. But if we go to a chatbot, the user is presented with a blank canvas. ChatGPT, we just have a blank page. So the user can form the request multiple ways. And what is most exciting is that that different request is going to prompt a different answer and even an unknown answer from the AI. So testing and even designing for coherence has become more challenging. For those that have read or that have watched the Harry Potter movies, this is like trying to track a pathway into that tri-cup wizard cup in that labyrinth where the walls moved, where the paths open and closed. They changed as Harry was moving. It's a unique experience that the chatbot gives to each of those users, depending on what input they put in one or the other. And also, the chatbots bring us to a very exciting but also complicated world of multiple type of interaction modes. As we can see here, the user can type or they can press on a button, or actually now we can even send voice notes to chatbots, and the AI will interpret it and give them an answer, even by voice. But also the chatbot can answer us with links, with buttons, or with text that might request the user to click on them and to continue their experience on the traditional UI. So all of these jumps between one and the other adds a layer of complexity. Nowadays, you can even be deflected outside of the browser and go into apps like WhatsApp or a mobile app. Or on the other hand, you can be deflected from traditional channels like your phone and continue and finish the conversation in a chatbot. So all of these different interfaces that we have adds, again, more and more complexity into the research of AI chatbots. Also, when we test traditional UIs, you have very straightforward metrics. Time on task, success rate, error rate, very quantifiable, very easy to interpret. However, where we're trying to assess the quality of a chatbot, we have to go beyond function. We need to see how the user reacts to the coherence, the naturality of the conversation, how do they feel engaged with this chatbot or not. Actually, one of those subjective aspects of a virtual assistant that we actually tried to test was the personality, which was something that in 2018 hadn't been done. So we actually buried some methodologies from other fields like psychology or branding in order to try to determine what was the desired personality of users in a virtual assistant. And what we got was very interesting findings. Independently of the methodology that we used, we discovered that users wanted a very rational virtual assistant, not a very emotional one. And this was very insightful for us. However, it left a lot of questions. Why did they want a more rational one? Don't we want a more personal one that feels like a human? We also wondered, how is this type of personality going to reflect their personality onto the users? What are those responses that the virtual assistant has to give in order for users to feel like this desired personality is actually being projected by it? It required a series of multiple studies to gather up all this qualitative information in order to finally refine that personality that we wanted to give to the virtual assistant and to construct all of those different answers that projected that personality. But today, as AI has evolved, also the methods to testing it have evolved. And what we see now is UX research platforms that are simplifying the AI tools research and helping us overcome these challenges that I just showed you. The first one, and I would say that the most important one, is the fact that they are remote testing platforms. So it allows us to enter the natural environment of users. And this gives us the chance that the user interacts with the chatbot in a real-life scenario, in their homes, where they feel very comfortable. Actually, I remember a very complex study that we did back when I was testing the virtual assistant, and we were trying to see how the virtual assistant was going to be able to control the TV. So we had to set up a lab, a very complicated arrangement, where we had a living room with a couch in front of the TV, a little coffee table with a mobile phone. The mobile phone had to be connected to TeamViewer so that we could see what the virtual assistant was gathering from the user's voice, but then we had cameras all over the room in order to try to capture as well what the user was actually saying, what the TV reacted to the request. And then, on top of that, we had a one-sided mirror with a bunch of developers, like emergency respondents, in case anything went bad. So all of these tools were required to gather up all of those different layers that one single virtual assistant required. But in this case, we can have all that in one single platform. And actually, we can see their authentic behaviors, what really happens in their day-to-day. We can see them at their homes, or maybe in their cars, or in their offices, or in the restaurant. And it's not a controlled lab set. It's not hypothetical situations. We can see what are the type of questions that the users are going to make to the chatbot in a real-life scenario. We can also avoid all of these difficult arrangements and even those logistical issues that we have with in-person research, like trying to hope that they don't get stuck in traffic and don't make it to the test. And also, remote research platforms brings us to the mix on moderated testing, which reduces that bias of the moderator, but also introduces the unpredictability that could happen. I cannot express enough the satisfaction of seeing a test where this woman was testing a chatbot, and then her son came running. Oh no, mom, this is my new masterpiece. Obviously, she stalled for a second to stop the test. Oh yes, it's beautiful. But what happened? It resulted that the chatbot ended the conversation because the user was not responding. So okay, well, bye. So we got the chance to see how the user reacted to this real life scenario, to this real thing that could happen to anyone. That is that I go away from a second and then come back, and the chatbot has ended the conversation. And we got to see how, not only how she reacted, but also how she handled the situation, which gave us very, very valuable feedback. Another great benefit from these research platforms are the global panels that they have of users. So we can actually recruit people from different geographies, different regions, different backgrounds, which gives us that chance to evaluate big things like different languages or accents, but also very nuanced things like cultural interpretations of the answers or how they phrase the prompt. But we go beyond geography. We can actually recruit users from different groups of ages, of different tech savviness, so that we can test with people that use AI every day and those that never used it. And also we can go beyond that for a very important thing today, that is accessibility. We can recruit people with different types of accessibility needs so that we can see also how they can interact with this type of tools. And is that testing with different groups is specifically very necessary when we are testing something as unpredictable as an AI chatbot. Additionally, a remote platform gives us the full view of the user's screen, alongside with their camera feed. This way, what we can see is actually not only tracking the navigation of those different interfaces that I was speaking before, that they can jump between one or the other. If the chatbot asks them to go into the traditional UI, then we can see that as well. We can do these tests as well in mobile to see how they change between the apps that they have to go in between. But also, the fact that we have that camera screen of the user allows us not only to see their nonverbal reactions, but also to hear them as they go through the experience with the chatbot, giving us a very holistic information and all in one single place, where we can start analyzing these different nuances and those friction points that the users may have throughout the experience. And this is linked to the fact that this type of platforms are built in to gather both qualitative and quantitative information. Because obviously, in a chatbot testing, it is important to, as well, measure the time on task, the success rate, the completion rate, but we have to go beyond that. We have to analyze or assess as well the user's emotions, their engagement. If they feel like the personality is being projected, if they feel like the tone is the correct one, if they feel like the flow of the conversation is good enough. So we can achieve this by asking them open-ended questions while or after they're interacting with the chatbot. And we can even provide both quantitative and qualitative information by presenting rating questions with follow-up questions like why or what would you improve in order to make better your experience. And last but not least, I would say that the UX research platforms not only saves us time, but also gives us time. Because for product design teams that they have a very fast pace on the development, they need also a fast-paced way of doing research. Because if not, at the end they say, well, we don't have time to do research, so we don't do it. So this type of platforms give them that time to, let's run a very fast A/B testing between two prototypes, and that's it. We take decisions based on the user. But we also can do more faster iteration. We can launch very fast and very parallel tests between them. And additionally, the fact that we have this global panel gives us the opportunity to do longitudinal and diary studies, because we can recapture those users. We can tell them, okay, do you want to continue testing this prototype, this product? And because they don't have to move alongside labs or anything, they just can log into the platform and continue testing, giving us feedback. But that it involves that constant improvement. So it's a continuous research at the same time that we have a continuous development. So as UX researchers, I think we've navigated always with being challenging, with complexity. However, AI chatbot testing has asked us to go one step further into the unpredictability. Thankfully, thanks to UX research platforms and other evolvements of UX research, we have turned these challenges into opportunities. And actually, it's the fact that not only we are turning into opportunities of more impact, more innovation, but also to ensure that these technologies of AI always stay centered in the user. Thank you.
Is my mic working? It is.
It is.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
When you're working in the AI chatbot world and the work that you've done there, how do you start talking about the value back into the teams, back into the customers, back into with the work that you're doing? How you talk about value? How do you show the value from the research that's been done?
Well, I think that with the virtual assistant, we started from the way beginning. I was very fortunate because even before they launched the virtual assistant, they wanted to do research. This is not very common in companies. Normally, you get research done when you're already in the finished product or something like that. But what I would recommend in order to show this value is to start small, to start testing little things and seeing how that impacts in the user, but also in other type of metrics. We do have like quantitative metrics that can show the impact of one single thing, like changing location of a button, or changing how, for example, the tone changes the conversation into one place or the other. So changing small things and showing people that this has an impact, it's very insightful. But also UX research platforms allows us to invite others to join this research. So as I was mentioning, we used to have a lab where we had this one-sided mirror, and we actually involved other people in the team so that they could be part of the research team. And now that working on research platforms, what I see is that they invite everyone to join these sessions, because everyone, again, is like the user. They can just join. You have 5 minutes spare time from your work, they just join, oh, there's a live user research session, let's go in it. And they see by themselves how the users are not feeling the conversation, or how they get lost in between the changes of interface. And this visual image for the rest of the team, even if they are not part of the UX research team, is very impactful for them.
One of the parts of the story that stuck out to me was the lady who was having a conversation and her child came into it. It stuck out, this happened to me during user research. I'll tell a bit of a side story here as well. I don't know if anyone remembers Mothercare. Yeah. The brand. I was doing research for them, this is about 8 years ago now, and we asked the people to bring their children in with them. And just as I was hit record on the Tobii eye tracker, the lady, the kid started crying, and the lady started breastfeeding just before it was way to hit start. And she said, "Don't worry, just carry on with it." And so it became quite awkward for me, but it showed you how she was dealing in that kind of situation and how she would interact with the website. The changes that came off the back of that kind of interaction, what were they and how did they come about?
Well, in fact, this was one thing, but the impact here was that even though we didn't have as a research objective to see how users would react to the chatbot ending a conversation, if they go away from their computer or their mobile phone for a while, we got that insight, and it's presenting to our client like this is something new that he got from the research, but thankfully we got it because this is something that could happen and that would have a great impact on the user experience because we saw it here. So that would actually lead to another study that we did to see how more people would react, to see if it matched what this woman's reaction was. So it not only gives us an open to more research, but also it gives a very good insight for our client.
And it almost fast tracks the A/B testing process to an extent
Yes,
as well,
definitely.
doesn't it? Because you no longer have to test, do I need to test that for longer or not? It's how long should it be almost. Is this work that you're still working on as well with your customers?
Yeah, I work at Userlytics. No, I don't know if someone has seen me on top. We work for a UX research platform, so we work with different clients. Some of our clients are already testing AI chatbots. We test other things as well. But it is very interesting to see how more and more the companies are testing this type of tools because they are becoming so much more important. And as I showed at the beginning, each time more companies are incorporating AI in that customer to company conversation and automating this customer service. So if they do want to continue with a good customer service, they do have to also rely on research to see not only how technically this type of chatbots are working, but also how users are feeling with them.
So another question here, what do you think about how AI can analyze now user, so what do you think about AI analyzing user interviews, etc., and be able to grab the main pain points, etc., from there?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw there, I had a visual of our platform where actually we have used AI to evaluate AI. So it is very interesting. But actually this tool is a sentiment analysis tool where we have the transcript and we see marked in green or in red those parts of the interaction that the user is expressing more negative feelings or more positive feelings. And I am well on board with using AI as a tool, again, for analyzing information. But it is a head start. For researchers, it's getting a head start like, okay, this part seems to show a very positive feeling or a very negative feeling. So let's dig deeper into that part. But I go in and I go back to the video, or I go back to the transcript to see what was happening, to correlate it with what is going on the screen, so that we can see if effectively the AI is marking it correctly as a negative or a positive feeling. So I would say, and I was actually in a course about using AI for research, and the teacher said, you have to treat AI like a very intelligent intern. You give them tasks, you give them important tasks, but at the same time, you are the senior researcher. You have to check everything the intern does. Even though he's very smart or she's very smart, you have to go through it, and you have to do way beyond what the intern does, because you have the context of the client, of the product that you're testing. So I would say that it is a tool. It's like your intern. Use it very well, learn to use it, because we are going to have to learn to use it for our advantage, but always rely on yourself and your knowledge.
And do you think it can help other people beyond research do more as well?
Definitely, definitely. I think that efficiency, but I do think that as in research, you have to learn how to take advantage of it for your own field. And in this course as well, they told us it is all about how you prompt. You have to know how to ask the question in order to get a good answer, in order to be effective. Because if not, at the end, you can stay hours and hours just asking the chatbot or the AI for an answer and never get it. At the end, you spend more time asking them than actually using it. So if we learn to use it efficiently, it's going to help us in ourselves being more efficient.
Excellent. Awesome. Can we have a round of applause, please, for Sarita?
Thank you so much.
That was brilliant.